Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And I just realized one of my favorite new features is not on the screen that you are currently seeing. So everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well. And we have some fun announcements for you, as well as, hey, who would have guessed? Ralph Bond with a bunch of news stories, and news stories that you probably haven't heard of. They're very cool, very uplifting, and we'll get to why that is and how that is. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a fun show planned for you with some fun announcements in the beginning, and then, hey, Ralph Bond and his segment here after that. So with that being said, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including a new website. Yes, I'm sure that a lot of people have noticed that in the past week. It's been pretty hit or miss, and for a while there, it was, if you were lucky, text with no CSS. It was beautiful. It was probably one of the best sites you've ever seen, but it's a lot better now that everything is working, and ladies and gentlemen, it's going. Let's just say that as far as being a webmaster goes, I have learned a lot, and none of it stuck, I assure you, so it's going to be okay. Everyone, computeramerica.com, there you'll find everything, including past shows, future show notes, past shows, and I guess this should be, kind of one of the, okay, so let's put it this way. The old website got hacked a couple of years ago, and we went through, we changed everything back, we removed it. Turns out that for just a few $1,000s, we could have really gone through, scrubbed, and decided to, for too much money, we could have went back and cleaned it up and kept everything. All of the past shows are still up on YouTube, all the way up to like 2016. The show notes are available on request, but they're also on social media and other places, usually listed underneath the show. The show notes are with the videos that you can still find on YouTube and other places. And the podcasting services has almost 1,000 episodes as well. The show notes that are on computeramerica.com, unfortunately, though, they're gone. Now I'm going to backlog and try to put up some of the more recent show notes. But by and large, ladies and gentlemen, new year, new me. And I know it's already May, but yeah. Hey, we all work on our own time frame. Going forward, all the show notes are going to be up on Computer America. We're going to do a better job of archiving and backing those up, and just in case something like this happens again. But by and large, the website looks, I think, great. It's going to be filled out with more show notes and everything that you love, and we'll add social media links at Computer America wherever you can find that. And I say that because we changed it on Instagram. It used to be computer_America. Now it's Computer America, all one word. Computer America on Blue Sky. You can find us there. You can find Computer America on X, Computer America on YouTube, Computer America on Facebook, Computer America anywhere on any social media. Did not start up our Pinterest again, but that's okay. We're going to forego that for now. Ladies and gentlemen, at Computer America, you can find us there. So with that being said, check out our website. We're very happy with it, and check out the video feed. It may not look different now, but let's go ahead, bring in Ralph, and we'll show you some of the key differences in what we're doing. So everyone, welcome back onto the program. He is our science and tech trends correspondent, and hey, we're being kind of trendy right now. Ralph, welcome back onto the program. How you been?
I'm doing great, and boy, this is a really fun day with all the new enhancements you've made to the website, which, wow, everybody, please come out to computeramerica.com. Check it out. This is really great.
Appreciate that.
I love it.
Yeah, and so on this screen, I did not forget to put up, if you're watching the video portion, you can, of course, see the show notes. That's always been a thing. You can see Ralph and mine smiling faces. We appreciate that. But you can also see below us, and that's going to be a feature from now on, transcripts. So you can, or closed captions, I should say. We get the transcripts. You get the closed captions. So if you are hard of hearing or you didn't hear something, Google's new AI is transcribing what we're saying, and we can even talk over each other. It shows both of us. It's very accurate. I am super impressed.
Yes.
So yeah, and you know, as Ralph and I were talking before the show here, we're using Google Meet instead of Zoom. You know, this doesn't affect you as a listener, but hey, hopefully it adds some cool features that we can do in the future, including automatic show notes, you know, more complete show notes, and of course, you know, visual transcription. And yeah, I could not be more impressed with what Google has been doing with you know, some of their software.
Amen.
Yeah, and you know, yeah, and Ralph, you want to say that you know, big shout out to your son for you know, for actually joining Google pretty recently, and yeah, you know, just working
before
on
we
Google
dive
or for Google.
Yeah, so before we dive into today's 4 stories and so forth, real quick shout out to Brian. He's my son-in-law, and he just started working for Google as part of their internal construction management team, and they're focusing on retail outlets like the beautiful Apple stores we see all over the world. Well, they're, of course, doing this as well for Google Android products and so on, and he's just thrilled to be part of that team. And shout out to him. And it's very appropriate that now we're using the Google Meet app, which I, like you, Ben, I'm very, very impressed with how elegant the interface is. Zoom was wonderful. Zoom still is wonderful, but
Absolutely.
This is a really fun, a fun change of pace.
Absolutely. And I think this is going to be even better for all of our listeners out there who can now see what we're saying.
Yes.
But hey, by and large, if you're simply listening to us, nothing has really changed. It's hopefully we still sound good and clear and crisp. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started with with our tech stories. And if you're watching the video portion again, you can see it there. You can follow along computeramerica.com for the show notes. Super important because Ralph is going to give you the keynotes, the key points of these stories.
Right.
And come out to computeramerica.com for the full articles, links, and everything. So Ralph, let's go ahead and get started with solar. Well, you know, essentially turning every train track into maybe a solar power plant.
Yeah, exactly. And before we jump into the story, if you're brand new to the show, welcome. What Ben and I do every Friday is look at 4 recent articles that show us key trends and developments in a whole range of things: artificial intelligence, of course, robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, agricultural technology, space research, physics. Wow. All across the board. And most important of all, in this world we're living in these days, the most important thing Ben and I do every Friday is give you an oasis of positive news thanks to the world of science and technology. And with that said, let's get into the first story for today. It comes from Photovoltaics Magazine, simply abbreviated PV Magazine. The headline: World's First Railway Track-Mounted Solar Plant Open to Rail Traffic. Irresistible headline, right? And again, this comes from PV Magazine. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Now, in the show, go ahead, Ben.
I was just gonna say, absolutely. To you know, this one is, hey, in use. It's out of the lab. It's cool.
Yes, it is. And in fact, this is a really good argument for please come out to computeramerica.com. Get the show notes so you can see the pictures of what we're talking about, because sometimes it's very hard to communicate this with words only. So if you're listening to us a podcast, follow up with the show notes. With that said, the images that I've captured from the article and also from the company's research paper and so forth show a normal road track, of course, and in between the rails are these solar panels laid down. And what's so interesting, Ben, is they have special rail cars that dispense the panels right automatically, boom, 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 like little dominoes, or I don't know, you know, that game where you have the little pieces of tiles that are put together with fabric and you can fold them up. It's a child's toy. I remember this as a kid. This is kind of what it is. It's like is laying down these panels in between the railroad tracks. But again, with all of that said, the visual picture trying to give you an image of what we're talking about. Let's get into this. It's a Switzerland startup, Sunways, has switched on a removable solar plant installed on a functioning railroad line in western Switzerland. Now, again, as I just mentioned, the solar panels are deposited in between the tracks of the rail line, and special rail cars deposit the panels, and they show one of those cars in the show notes pictures. Pretty cool. Now, the array, which is billed as the world's first track-mounted solar plant, open to rail traffic, so that's a real deal. This is out of the lab, as Ben was saying, sits in western Switzerland and includes 48 solar panels rated at 385 watts each. So this is a small test installation. Let's be clear about that. So this does kind of fit into our trends. It's not like they've got 50 miles of this thing. No, it's a test of 48 panels to see what happens. And the installation, go Ben.
I just want to say real quick that it makes sense. And if you go to the website, it's sunways.ch, which I'm assuming means China. I'm pretty sure .ch is China for a China domain. But Ralph, I gotta say that it's no secret that China has been mass producing solar panels.
Yes.
And they have tons of them, but of course, installing them is probably the harder part than getting them. And this kind of solves that problem. You have solar panels, you need an easy place to install them. What a match made in heaven.
Yeah, exactly. I always love these green energy stories that take advantage of property or locations that otherwise just go fallow. The classic we've talked about this a million times before. In Turkey and Istanbul, in the middle of their freeways, they have little wind turbines right down the middle, and passing cars and stuff are generating that energy. So this to me is akin to that, in that where can we put solar panels out of the way in spaces that otherwise are just useless? Well, how about in between railroad tracks? It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. The article goes on to say the installation has a total output of 18 kilowatts and is expected to generate 16 megawatt hours of clean energy each year, feeding power to the public grid about 500 meters away from this emphasized test site of 48 panels. Now, passenger trains began running over this test installation on April the 28th, so it's very recently. And Sunways said it will carry out tests over the next 3 years on panel coating. So how does the panel coating work? What does soiling do to the system? And the system's impact on rail infrastructure. Does it have any negative impact on the trains passing by? So they're looking at this. This is, again, a test. And the data will help determine whether rail operations can run safely with a removable solar array mounted between the tracks. I want to stress that, removable. Remember, the special train car lays the little panels down, but they can also pick the panels up for maintenance and cleaning and so on. So it's a very clever design. And when they did the test installation back in April here, delegations from Belgium, France, Indonesia, Israel, South Korea attended the inauguration to assess potential development in their home countries, according to Sunways. So really cool stuff, Ben. It's just so impressive.
Yeah, I am very enheartened. That's probably not a word. I'm very happy that it wasn't just. I'm very encouraged that it's not just again, proof of concept in a lab that we could do this. This is essentially the proof of concept. This is the test, like you were saying. But yes. I mean, it's already the fact that they had delegations from so many different countries. Pretty much every country across this globe has railroad tracks, so all of them could easily, hopefully, utilize this. And it's, hey, if the next year pans out, maybe expect to start seeing these, in more and more places as really the material gets easier to make the panels, and hey, you just need somewhere safe and easy to put them. And it makes so much sense. This story is just has so many things that just kind of click together.
Exactly right. And then to end things up here, a little reality check in the article. It says critics have focused on two key concerns that may limit the performance of the solar panels laid between the railroad tracks, including, of course, no surprise, heavy soiling and strong mechanical stress from trains passing overhead. Both factors could significantly shorten a system's lifespan and reduce energy output. However, remember, their system can not only lay down the panels, but they can also pick them up for maintenance. So I think they'll be on top of it. And my little personal injection here, maybe you were thinking the same thing as we were looking at this story, Ben. Why not put solar panels on top of the freight cars or passenger cars, combined with solar panels in between the tracks, and have this kind of amazing synergistic energy creation environment, right? It seems like a logical next step to me.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense because, and just railroad tracks in general, either on top of cars or, between the tracks, like they need to be clear of, any overhead obstruction. They can't have trees.
Yes.
They can't have, this is prime, kind of area for solar panels. It makes perfect sense why they kind of marry the two together. Ralph, as solar panels get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to produce, and we need more and more electricity, it's hard to see why this wouldn't be a thing. And it looks like, a lot of other organizations and people are putting that together. So
agree.
Very, very cool. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, you can find that in the show notes. You can find a link to the images and Ralph put together, especially like this one here. It's kind of right in the middle of all these images where it shows them being laid down.
There you go.
Very, very cool. So,
clever stuff.
Definitely. Story number 1. Story number 2, let's go ahead and skip on over. And this one was kind of hard to kind of parse out the first time you read the headline, but Ralph's going to break it down. But suffice to say, night vision. It's it's usually in military movies, and it's so futuristic. But hey, what about making it even easier to do, and better than the giant frogman, giant overhead display. So let's talk about night vision.
Okay, story number 2 comes from good old MIT News, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, of course. And the headline is a big mouthful along with the subhead, but we'll plow through this and get to the real meat of the story. So the headline is New Electronic Skin Could Enable Lightweight Night Vision Glasses. It's just one of many applications for this technology, by the way. Subhead, MIT engineers develop ultra-thin electronic films that sense heat and other signals and could reduce the bulk of conventional goggles and scopes. But that, again, is just one of the applications of this technology. And if you have the show notes, take a look at the image and the caption that's with the image from MIT. It says the newly developed film could enable lighter, more portable, and highly accurate far infrared sensing devices with potential applications for night vision eyewear and autonomous driving in foggy conditions. But I want to stress again, this new film is more versatile than just for night vision and goggles and so forth, which is a wonderful application, but we're going to learn more. So getting into it here, MIT engineers have developed a technique to grow and peel ultra-thin skins of electronic material. Wow. The method could pave the way for new classes of electronic devices, such as ultra-thin wearable sensors, flexible transistors, and computing elements, and highly sensitive and compact imaging devices. So my point I made earlier is this ultra-thin skins of electronic material MIT have come up with, it does more than just the goggles and the night vision thing. So that's what I wanted to stress.
Just another kind of layer of data that can be collected and applied to so many different things. And think of how ubiquitous cameras are. Yes, add another layer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a demonstration of this new technology, the MIT team fabricated a thin membrane of pyroelectric material. Now, pyroelectric material is a class of heat-sensing material that produces an electric current in response to changes in temperature. Generates electricity in response to changes in temperature. Let that sink in. The thinner the pyroelectric material, the better it is at sensing subtle thermal variations. That's why the thinness is so important. Now, with this new method, the team fabricated the thinnest pyroelectric membrane yet, measuring 10 nanometers thick and demonstrated that the film is highly sensitive to heat and radiation across the far infrared spectrum. 10 nanometers thick. That's infinitesimally thin.
Yeah, let's see average thickness of human hair, because I am losing mine, so I can't just use mine as a go by.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking at zero point 0.06 millimeters, so that's probably in the range of like 600 times thinner, or 60 times thinner than
It's
human
got to
hair.
be
It is super
incredibly.
thin. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the newly developed film could enable lighter, more portable, and highly accurate far infrared sensing devices with potential applications for night vision eyewear and, this is interesting, Ben, autonomous driving vision systems or that can work very well in foggy conditions. Isn't that cool? And here's the deal, current state-of-the-art far infrared sensors require bulky cooling elements. That's what's happening right now today until this development. In contrast, the new pyroelectric thin film requires no cooling and is sensitive to much smaller changes in temperature. This is the big deal that MIT have come up with.
I guess
the researchers,
I just want to say, I guess by being so thin, it obviously gives off and does not store heat like at all, but it can sense the changes. So
isn't that something? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's very cool. The researchers are exploring ways to incorporate the film into lighter, higher precision night vision glasses, as we've mentioned before. The heat sensing film could also have applications in environmental and biological sensing, as well as imaging of astrophysical phenomena that emit far infrared radiation. You're starting to get a feeling for, the night goggles and the imaging stuff was sort of the tease to get you into this story, but the implications of this technological development are far more ranging, right? I mean, it's just amazing.
I definitely immediately thought of the satellites that NASA's sending up, and all the different things that and obviously they're gonna have much better kind of sensing software than even this. They're gonna be much more sensitive and much big and bulkier. But hey, if you can reduce the bulkiness, maybe you get some better imaging technology as well. I don't know. The applications are wide.
Definitely potentially wide, yeah. And what's more, the new lift-off technique, and this refers to the ability to peel the ultra-thin skins of the electronic material, is generalizable beyond pyroelectric materials. The researchers plan to apply the method to make other ultra-thin, high-performance semiconducting films. Wow, there's a lot going on. And this is a good example, friends. Please come out to computeramerica.com. Please look at the show notes. And please click on the links for research papers, the full-on article, and so forth, because we're just giving you the tip of the iceberg of an amazing bulk of information you can dive into if you so desire.
it seems like the last image that MIT included is the
there you
last
go.
process you were talking about, where, ladies and gentlemen, like honestly, it seems like almost, and it's way more complicated than this, but it's almost like taking a piece of tape and like putting on your skin, getting some of your skin oil off, and then depositing that skin oil somewhere. Like that is the amount of material that they're moving, but hey, it works, and it's very precise. So very, very cool stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, you should check out the pictures, all that good stuff over at MIT, as well as the show notes. Very cool. And by the way, Ralph, I just want to say huge shout out to Google through all this. You did not say small words there. There were big words. There were, biological sensing. You had generalized beyond pyroelectric material. Like, these are words that are not very common, I would think, in day-to-day conversation. And the captions have been getting all of it, like 100% accurate.
Amazing. It is just amazing.
You had your moment. I'm sorry. You had your moment before we started the show about back in my day.
Back in my day.
One of the first segments that I did with Computer America when I came on, to kind of start helping Craig, and just have fun myself. But to help Craig, I remember talking to companies that were doing OCR and not just optical, but also speech to text as well. and they were bragging that, they had 90%, 92%. And of course, getting above, they said like the magic number is above 96%, because that's still like 1 in every 20 words or, something like that you miss. But that's enough that you can, understand the context of what they're doing. This is beyond that. This is 20 years later, and it's, amazing what they can do.
It is just amazing.
So anyways, I'm just gushing over some of the new features, but hey, let's go ahead and move on to story number 3. And it's been too happy, too positive here. Ralph, let's talk about eye injections. Injections directly into the eyeball. That is what we need right now. So
it still freaks me out, but what we normally do every Friday, folks, is the fourth of the 4 stories is usually medical technology, because that's something that I'm just obsessively interested in. This week, you're going to get 2 medical related stories, story 3 and story 4. So let's get into story 3, which comes from Science Alert. And the headline, such a curious thing here: gold injections in the eye may be the future of vision preservation. Gold injections?
It immediately kind of reminds me of South Park, where the South Park episode where Magic Johnson and they found the cure for AIDS, and they're going through, and he's like, oh, exercise, diet, sleep, regular health screening, stuff like that. And then the scientists found out that the true cure for AIDS was injecting money directly into the bloodstream. So yeah, it was
it's funny.
Yeah, so similar, just inject money directly into the eyeball to preserve it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so with that said, here we go. Gold dust in eyes might seem like an unusual therapy. The author of the article starts off with, well, yeah, but a new mouse study conducted by Brown University in Rhode Island shows the approach could potentially treat age-related macular degeneration and other eye problems. Once again, Ben, a salute to mice and rats and other animals that have given their lives to help us understand things. Mm-hmm. Good Lord. Anyway, of course, we all know this. Macular degeneration affects millions worldwide and becomes more likely as we age. Believe me, do I know. Damage to the macula, located in the retina and containing light-sensitive photoreceptor cells, causes blurring and other visual issues. While there are treatments available to slow the progression of age-related macular degeneration, they don't reverse it. All right, that's the setup of where we are now. Now, drum roll, here comes the story. One of the lead researchers on this project at Brown University said, this is a new type of retinal prosthesis that has the potential to restore vision lost to retinal degeneration without requiring any kind of complicated surgery or genetic modification. Wow.
I'm glad they followed that up immediately with how this works, because that seems hard to believe.
Yes, you're right. And in the article, the next section here is kind of like, okay, this is great, but how does it work? Okay. So first, very fine gold nanoparticles, thousands of times thinner than a human hair, are laced with antibodies to target specific eye cells. They're then injected into the gel-filled vitreous chamber between the retina and the lens. The idea of someone sticking a needle in my eye just makes me cringe. Next, a small infrared laser device is used to excite these nanoparticles and activate specific cells in the same way photoreceptors do. I'm going to stop for a second. This is another good example of, if you really want to know what's going on, you must read the full article and you must read the research paper, folks, because we're skipping a stone over the surface with just the highlights, okay? Really something amazing. And Ben, you'll love this part. If the treatment makes it to humans as well, because it's just being done on mice so far, that laser part of the equation could be embedded in a pair of glasses. Wow.
Huh.
Just something else. And here to wrap this one up, in the mice, this was tested on through this research effort. And the mice, of course, poor little guys, were engineered to have retinal disorders. The treatment method was effective at restoring vision, at least partly. And there's a little part that the author says. It's tricky to give a mouse a full eye test, of course, right? But the evidence seemed to suggest it was effective at restoring vision. And it showed that nanoparticles could help bypass damaged photoreceptors. So one of the most curious and interesting things that I've seen in terms of eye treatment technology advances. A few weeks ago, we talked about a robot that they developed. You could put over a person's head and face and do eye surgery very precisely. But this is a really interesting thing that doesn't require extensive surgery and so forth. Yes, there's the injection part of the equation and then the laser treatment, but it's a remarkable and radical treatment possible path to follow. So Brown University, salute to you guys.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that you just get over that injection into the eye part, and you could do this from home. It's put on the glasses, but probably in eye exam rooms and places like that near you. No, and of course to be able to actually reverse it, like they said, not just stop or slow it, is new breakthroughs in its own right. So very impressive story number 3. All it takes is, hey, gold, nanoparticle gold. Very cool.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of when I went panning for gold in Colorado myself. Bought the little bucket, bought the little sleuth and whatnot. And I think we also just found nanoparticles. That's as much gold as we found. So there we go. Story number 3. Story number 4. Let's go ahead and talk about something that, Ralph, I'll be honest, has felt like it's been on the cusp for over a decade at least, if not 15, 20 years. Really the fact that, oral, maintenance and oral surgery and stuff like that, 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, the answer was yank that sucker out. Only in the past 50, 100 years has it been, we have fillings, we can do other stuff. And then, in the past 10 years, we've talked about growing teeth, and it's never really been viable. We've seen material gels that you can put on your teeth that are made of stem cells that will regrow as the teeth and, adhere to the teeth. But Ralph, story number 4 might be hopefully the answer to so many people's problems, because they say you only get one set. Hey, maybe now you can be like a shark and get 4 sets, and this is going to be really cool. So story number 4.
That's fun. The shark analogy is a good one. So this one comes from our last story we're going to focus on today. Comes from Live Science, and the headline here: lab grown teeth could offer an alternative to fillings and implants, scientists say. So this is very near and dear to my heart again, because recently age-related bone loss is making some of my teeth loose, and now I'm on my way to the periodontist to see what are we going to do with this old car running down the road. That's me losing parts along the way.
Oh.
Anyway. Enough for the boo. Okay,
well, real quick. I mean, that raises the issue. It's it's not even just for people who didn't take care of their teeth or have traumatic injuries or something like this. This will affect everyone at some stage of their life, and that's why it's so important.
Yes, it is. So this starts off with some background here. When our teeth are damaged, of course, dentists mend cavities with fillings or replace teeth with artificial tooth or teeth implants. However, these solutions cannot repair themselves and may have to be replaced. I've had cavities, fillings replaced. Many of us have. Meanwhile, tooth implants require invasive surgery, usually across multiple appointments, and can risk infection and or damage to surrounding teeth and gums. So we can do this, but there's some downsides to this. Now, here comes the drum roll. Scientists at King's College London have developed a new material that may allow them to grow teeth in the lab, which could provide an alternative to fillings and dental implants someday. So this is a good example of trend, early research, theme that often Ben and I cover on Friday. The team developed a special material that allows cells to communicate with one another just as they would in the body, therefore enabling them to develop into tooth cells. Wow. The process allows scientists to grow teeth, and here's the great part, Ben, you're going to love this. The process allows the scientists to grow teeth from a patient's cells in the lab. So it's patient specific. Isn't that cool? This is a great example of that kind of targeted patient specific organoids that we've talked about before in other areas. So it goes on to say someday it could enable damaged or infected teeth to be replaced by a patient's real teeth grown in the lab rather than being repaired using fillings and other dental procedures. Wow. Pretty cool.
It's so it's so incredible that we might be able to do something that, for the longest time they're like, again, you get one set of teeth, you can't regrow them. Once it's damaged, it's damaged. And no, there are universities all over the world working on ways to fix this huge problem. Dental care is important care. So
gosh, yes. And to go on here, it says, for years, scientists at King's College London have been working on a process for growing teeth, which involves mimicking how teeth grow within the body. Now, you've probably been thinking, okay, Ralph, this is great. How does it work? Well, let's go through the steps. Teeth begin growing from stem cells during early embryonic development, with stem cells from different types of embryonic tissue, quote unquote, talking to each other using signaling molecules to trigger tooth formation. It's all so interesting to me, at least. The stem cells differentiate into various forms of cells, which then secrete the materials that the tooth is eventually made from, such as enamel, dentin, and cementum. In the new study, the researchers described how they made a crucial breakthrough by developing a material that allowed stem cells to communicate as they would if they were in the body, but in this case, in the lab. The material was made from hydrogel, a soft gel-like material that can absorb large amounts of water and emulates the environment around the cells in the body, known as the matrix. That in turn, this situation is how the teeth cells can develop and create lab-grown teeth. Wow.
There's so much more to it, I'm sure, as well. Like,
yes,
it's going to involve like scanning, 3D printing, and recreating the tooth that you need to be replaced because, Ralph, like the bite pattern stuff, the tooth has to match your tooth.
Yes,
it's not just your cells. But picking through the article, I mean, like you can see the tooth there. It is incredible what they're able to grow, like with the the parts that go down into the jaw and everything. And it's amazing. I hope that they get it working sooner rather than later, so I can benefit from this eventually. When I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Just give me a new tooth. And it's like, hey, I wonder how long it takes to grow a tooth. I don't think they ever said.
Well, that's
it's like, oh, we mimic the way it does in the human body. So in 12 years, you'll get your adult teeth and you can go ahead and pop those in. I don't know, but still very, very cool. Great research and a great way to kind of end our segment. It's, really, really hopeful that we can get, answers to some of these problems we've long thought were just, hey, that's how life is. No, we don't have to accept that. So speaking of how life is, that's the end of our show. But there's more. There's, of course, the honorable mentions if you have been following along, because by the time that you hear this, you can go on over to computeramerica.com and you can see the show notes. Well, at the bottom there, these are stories that we just don't have time for. We try to keep the show a bit more condensed for your listening pleasure, but that means that Ralph finds so many stories, they kind of overflow into the honorable mention segments. They would be in the show, but time-wise. So, Ralph, we can at least give the nice folks the headlines and then come out to the website and they can find the honorable mentions themselves. So, let's go ahead and do that.
You got it. Our first honorable mention of 4 comes from Live Science. And the headline is, and I'll inject a little bit to the headline, it's researchers in the Netherlands have created the world's first operating system for quantum computers. It can be used to manage a future quantum internet. Oh, this article is really great for
and
kind of getting up.
They really went out there with the name. It's called Quantum Windows. So very impressive.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wait for the lawsuit on that one. But anyway, next story, and this is really cool. This is for my son-in-law Brian. I mentioned he's just started working for Google in their construction management team. Headline: Drone builder ? flying robots could help construct future skyscrapers. And they proved this with a live test. This comes from Interesting Engineering. Check this out. Really love this kind of stuff. And the next one is from Hydrogen Fuel News. Headline: Hydrogen fuel cells power new future for data centers in California. It's coming, folks. Hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen. It's not perfect. It's not totally figured out in terms of distribution of the fuel source and so forth, but it's just an irresistible wave of technology and implementation, and it's coming. So stay tuned for that one.
That is definitely one of the trends that we are watching.
Absolutely. And our last honorable mention from Science Alert. This is cool. Smart brain implants can now adapt to optimize Parkinson's treatment. How wonderful, right? Anything to help with that dreaded, horrible disease. Check that out. That'll leave you on. And we're going to leave you on a very upbeat, uplifting note here. That's what we do every Friday.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we definitely try to do that every single Friday. And Ralph, I think you do an amazing job. And ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. The music means that we're going to go ahead and head on out of here. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the program, checking out what we have to say, and of course, hopefully checking out the website, and check us out wherever. We have a new logo, we have a new website, we have a segment that if you click Ralph Bond at the top, hey, maybe how soon you do that, it'll lead to a dead page. But that's okay, because eventually you'll find all of Ralph's segments in one convenient place right there on our website. So Ralph, until next time, I want to thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for listening and tuning in. Stay tuned, and hey, we got more shows in the future. Computer America, thank you so much. Have a good one. Oh wait, I was told by one of our other guests to make this change. Ladies and gentlemen, may your hard drive never become floppy. Everyone, thank you for tuning in.